Well, hello again, entrepreneurs. This is Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is JDavis, and we are constantly streaming stories of entrepreneurship, leadership, and organizational change during all this time of trauma to the economy and change. And every week we like to check in with Marc Zwetchkenbaum, president of Marc Z Legal Staffing, for our Marc Z moment. Welcome back, Marc.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be here. Great to see you.
Marc, you know, this economy, it's tough on all of us, but it sure creates a lot of data for you to talk about.
That it does. That it does. And Jeff, the employment wins constantly are changing, particularly with working arrangements in at companies and firms. And you and I were talking about. We had talked about the whole remote and the dynamics and in person and remote. And then you read recently about Elon Musk wanting everybody back in their seats 5 days a week, which seemed very unusual, especially
or fire,
or be fired. And so I think that maybe some people might be tempted to go in 5 days a week because of having Tesla stock. But if you're if you're a certain employee, but I think the reality, based on what we continually are seeing, are companies have to look at what the employee's situation is, what worked during the pandemic, what didn't work during the pandemic, and to come to some kind of compromise that works for everybody. Because what you don't want are situations like there are companies that say, put it out, well, we want people in 4 days a week, 1 day out, and all of a sudden the street is flooded with resumes of those employees. I think that there's a balance between what's effective. So, for example, certain senior attorneys who've been part of firms, law firms, or PR firms, or consulting firms, or CPA firms, a lot of them are saying, I'll only go in as necessary. I don't like the commute. For years, I did the commute. That's understandable. One, they have their clients already. They have their relationships already. People know them. They don't have to prove themselves. They have that flexibility.
I represent that remark.
Correct. So the whole thing is looking at, where are you if you're an employee, where are you at the stage of your career? If you're beginning the stage of a career, like I was talking to an emerging associate at one of the top firms in the country yesterday, and he is very focused on his billable hours, and he's been working in exotic areas. I mean, he's been getting places on the vineyard, or going up to, he's a skier in the winter, and he'll work really hard, get the hours correct. And I mean, he'll do whatever it takes. At the same time, he'll be in the exotic areas for billable hours. However, it's not all about the hours if you want to have a career at the firm and you want to really develop as an associate. So what we're talking about was making sure that he at least goes in, once a week, even though it's not mandatory, to be able to get to know maybe the senior partners, get to know colleagues. Some firms are having lunches, weekly lunches, so everybody can come in and be together and talk. But
gee, they haven't invited me. I'm looking for my free lunch.
Well, that can be dangerous too. I know a number of people that got sick during those free lunches. But the point of it is trying to have a balance between in-person, but at the same time, what works for the employee.
You know what I think is another reflection of that, and people sort of thinking about what's best for me, but I want to work, is that for the first time in years, Americans are in better shape than they used to be. And it's not for aesthetic reasons, it's for health reasons. Americans are getting healthier at a rate that we've never known before. And I think that's because people are now thinking, I need to take care of myself and I want to do my job. And I think that's really the biggest driver in our economy of how do we employ people. And yes, there are people who want to go to work. There's employers who want people at work. And yes, we want to get people happy and give them flexibility. But the fact is, there's still more demand for labor than there is labor as of today. And that could change quickly in the economy. And to do that, you have to understand, where is the psyche of the worker right now? And the psyche is, I want to take care of myself.
Correct. Well, you know, it's interesting. There's a new study coming out of England about a 4-day work week. And a lot of companies in this country are really seriously looking at that, because we're now at a 24/7 economy that's set up like a traditional 5-day work week, and then weekends get blended. But if you have a 4-day work week, then maybe that can give some people a little bit of a break to have some balance. And you're right, by working somewhat remotely, I've talked to a lot of employees, people at all levels of their careers, and they've said they've walked more, they're getting more exercise because they're not having to come into the office every day. At the same time, Jeff, it's really, really important. People want to know what the structure of a company is or a law firm is. And a lot of firms are finally saying, okay, do 3 days in. We encourage 3 days in, 2 days out for staff and working remotely. And I think that's the traditional way. But with the partners, the executives, a lot of in-house counsels for, or a lot of in-house executives at all levels, it's still remote. So I think that you're right. By having that remote or having that balance, that can help with opening up people's availability when they're not commuting to maybe exercise or be healthier.
And that's true for you too, because, for full disclosure, I think I saw a picture of you a couple of weeks ago in California, a slimmed down Mark Z in California on his phone working. So it showed you were able to work remotely, but I wasn't sure when I first saw the picture if it wasn't a doctored picture, because you looked like you were in such good shape.
I still have a ways to go, but thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, no, definitely it's coming up with a balance between still having to work, but you've got to live your life now. And finally, we're finally traveling too. You have to live your life,
Right. Very good. Well, I always look forward to my Mark Z moments. You know that. They're always, for me in person, they always come with a hug, a COVID hug, of course. And if somebody else looking for a Mark Z moment, how would they find you?
Well, first of all, Jeff, on the Radio Entrepreneurs website and all the platforms that are used by radio entrepreneurs, Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C, and the letter Z, we come right up, marczlegal.com, 617-338-1300.
Oh, well, that was a Mark Z senior moment. And this is Radio Entrepreneurs.